Genie Entertainment presents the following. The following is not suitable for children under the age of 18. It contains coarse language, sexual references, as well as my personal views and opinions. The characters on this show are fictional and are made for fun, not harm. The Genie Show.
The more things change, the more they stay the same. Hello and welcome to the Genie Show. This is the worst show ever. We're on episode 108 of the Genie Show, and yes, I am back. If you're listening to this on Mixer, we've also got Discord. But if Discord's not working, then well, fuck it. We'll fuck that off. I really have no idea what's working. It looks like the levels here are working for the microphone. Everything seems to work. I don't know if sound effects work. That's for you, Discord. So I'll just assume that worked. So yeah, I've been off for a while. Sort of came back around late last year. Kind of had other things to do with bushfires and all that other stuff. Radio so pretty much took up all my time. Well, I'll get into that a little bit later, but essentially we'll be back. What I'm thinking of doing is not doing a whole show on wrestling. I'm thinking of doing it in parts. Like one part of it will be wrestling, the next part will be whatever the fuck. The last part will pretty much be promoting shit and getting the fuck out. You know, as I usually do the last part. So I guess we'll get into it with Goldberg beating The Fiend at the Saudi Arabia show. Now, I didn't watch it. To be honest with you, I don't really support them going over there. The show is basically for murderers and terrorists. And you know, when you have beheadings and shit, like, the last thing you want to do is go and support a show or a country that just pretty much kills people. It's really dumb. But with Goldberg beating The Fiend, I thought it was actually really funny. And then, this is how funny it is. Thank you. Welcome with sound effects. Hopefully that doesn't get too old. Goldberg beating The Fiend to me, I get it. Like, I get why they did it. It just does seem pretty stupid to me, and it does tell me that WWE has no faith in their current stars. And, well, everybody's up in arms about Bray Wyatt not going to WrestleMania, which, you know, I kind of agree. The dude's worked his ass off, had a gimmick that got over, and gets the rug pulled from under him. And, you know, why would you build that guy for so long only to do that? But then this is not the first time that WWE has done this. So many other people, like there's, name the list. You got people, like people talk about the Attitude Ruthless Aggression era. They talk about Sean O'Haire, a guy that was put on the rise, but then his Push was killed because something Roddy Piper did. Um, and the anointment of Roman Reigns pretty much is every year at this point, except for last year, when really his hottest point was coming back last year, but then he just returned from cancer. And it's either pull the trigger on this guy or don't. Like, I've been saying this for years at this point. It's been 5 years that WWE's been putting the push on Roman Reigns. They fed him. They gave him Cena. They gave him Randy Orton. They've gave him Triple H. They've given him The Undertaker, Brock Lesnar, everybody you can name, and yet they don't pull the trigger on the dude, which I guess is, I don't know why. Like, Vince doesn't like the fact that he's being booed. Now, I think that's kind of a stupid reason. Especially when you had John Cena, who was booed for most of his career. But the one time I think he was the most over was when he had that match with Kevin Federline. John Cena was probably the most over dude on that show, but then at this point, but ever since then, he never really got back to that being the babyface, being cheered again until now. And I forget, it might have been someone else who said this, like, it's taken John Cena to go away to realise that people miss him. Jim Cornette's analogy. How can I miss you if you don't go away? As annoying as that term is, again, it's true. And this WrestleMania 36 card is looking real interesting because it's a lot of part-timers versus full-timers. You got Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar, which, in all honesty, I don't see Drew McIntyre as the main event. Or if he wins, it really doesn't mean anything. Like, if, in all honesty, I think the guy that probably should be in the main event, who might be because if he's in NXT, is Keith Lee. Ever since the Royal Rumble, like, usually when you win the Royal Rumble, you're meant to have this buzz about you. In my opinion, you're meant to have this buzz. And that generates and generates and generates. But then, since Drew McIntyre won the Royal Rumble, he's kind of fallen off. And yes, there's a pay-per-view in between that. But why not feature him in a match? In a big-time match. Maybe face him off against, I don't know, who's the top heel in that company? Seth Rollins. Get him a win over Seth Rollins. I don't see why you couldn't do something like that to build him going to face Brock Lesnar. And at the next pay-per-view, you put him over another heel and another heel, someone a top guy, not just anybody, just a top guy. I mean, you can sacrifice a Seth Rollins, you can sacrifice, I can't think of other heels in WWE at the moment, The Miz, John Morrison or whatever, because I don't watch WWE that much at this point. But instead, you got The Undertaker facing AJ Styles, it looks like. John Cena facing The Fiend, which people are going, oh, John Cena's going to do the favors, but then you do remember this is WWE, right? And cool, John Cena. Do you think John Cena's just going to do a job pretty much every year that he comes back for WrestleMania? I doubt it. Obviously, you're going to have Goldberg Roman Reigns, which is the bigger match. I'm not going to lie. It's going to get more. It's going to get more eyeballs on the show, but then you don't have that person that's sort of like, there's no breakout star, there's no star to watch, there's no draw. When there's no draw, and things like these old guys coming back, they're meant to be the attraction. Well, the problem is when an attraction gets overused or overdone, it no longer becomes an attraction. Andre the Giant, for years, was a main event attraction everywhere he went. But that's the key word, attraction. But it came to a point where he kept returning to the point he became stale in those last couple of years. And obviously, Andre the Giant wasn't exactly in the best health in his later years. Pretty much after WrestleMania 3, Andre the Giant was pretty much done because he got beaten. Yes, Andre the Giant had lost matches in other territories and that, but in the WWE he was named as the 15-year unbeaten Giant. Then he gets beaten, and he's no longer the attraction. It's kind of like The Undertaker at this point. When he had the streak, there was something you could use. It was a marketing tool that you could use. But then he loses, and all of a sudden, there's what is left for the Undertaker? And the big mistake is for the Undertaker, in my view, and everybody else is saying this, is that he keeps returning. That payday must be pretty good. Otherwise, he wouldn't be returning like this. But that's as far as WrestleMania at this point. I want to get on to, since I've sort of left podcasting, I kind of left the wrestling scene a little bit, not fully. I mean, I still watch it a lot. Obviously, I watch a lot of AEW and NWA. Those two, mostly New Japan when I can. But I look at a lot of wrestling now from an outsider's perspective a little bit now, and to think the constant bitching is really, really dumb. I mean, and I used to be part of that. I don't get why people are watching it if they don't like it. Like, that's the thing. And people are talking about how what about WWE and AEW, or who's better, this and that. And I'm just sitting there going, well, I kind of learned years ago that WWE was not for me. And here's the thing, like, you don't have to sit and watch the one thing because you're accustomed to it. And people try to talk to me about, it's an NFL team, it's your team because you can't betray your team. And I'm just thinking, it's a TV show. It's not a team. It's not a team thing. It's a TV show. Yeah, I mean, this whole pay-per-view, they're pretty much showing that they don't give a fuck about you or what you think. In fact, they look down on you, and they will say to you, and they'll say this within mind, that you'll forget this in the next 6 months. Isn't that sad? They think little of you. They think down on you. And you have all these other styles of wrestling, from AEW to NWA to Ring of Honor to New Japan and all these other things. And people say, well, what's better? Well, I don't think there is such thing as a better company. There's something that appeals to you. And that appeal is what draws you to that show. And at the moment, I am watching AEW, and I'll say a lot more than I would be watching WWE at this point, because it's a different alternative. It's something that's filling my need, as compared to WWE, who's not filling any needs whatsoever. I don't think I have enjoyed a WWE show probably in the last decade. The last decade, I think the last time I really enjoyed watching WWE was in 2014 with the rise of Daniel Bryan. I mean, I thought that was even though that was pretty much a shit show and there's a lot of political stuff behind it. But then it was the combination of that, getting to the end of it, and that was the journey. And WrestleMania 30 was probably the last time I enjoyed a WWE show. But before that, and you go back to what you're watching as a kid, and Jim Cornette, who's obviously a big fan of the 70s and 80s style of wrestling, and here's a difference, and I'm not comparing myself to him, but here's a difference. Like, you want to watch something like the first time you've seen it. And the first time I started watching was just after the Attitude Era, like it was around the Invasion angle. You had The Rock, you had Stone Cold, you had all these other personalities, and this is what you grew up on watching, what wrestling is meant to be. And this is the same with Jim Cornette, is that he views what he saw as a kid and wants that to be recreated. Now the problem is you cannot recreate that in this day and age, because it's evolution. It's an evolution trait. Um, and you just got to sit down and think, is this for you anymore? And maybe it's not. It's just another show at this point. I mean, okay, and you want the stuff you seen as a kid, but at this point, it doesn't work nowadays. So the flippy floppy shit that people may not be fans of is appealing to a generation that is into it. And to them, this is what wrestling is now. It's entertainment, it's in-ring work, and all this other stuff. Whereas years ago, it wasn't so much. But then I won't say it wasn't, because the NWA was pretty much about ring work. Very much about ring work. You didn't become the NWA champion unless you're at the top of your game. WWE champion, well, you just had to be a strong big guy. But then you did have Bruno Sammartino and Bob Backlund, who wasn't really a big draw as a champion, but at the same time, they were of that era. And they look like legitimate athletes. And nowadays you have guys that are legit athletes. A lot of them are that have been into sports, but a lot more is athletic, a faster pace, and just a whole lot different. Now, and you can't really hide around the fact of kayfabe anymore. I mean, let's face it. They say internet's killed the kayfabe, but it was gone way before that. I mean, when you had Vince McMahon going out and saying, "Hey, we aren't real." I mean, this was in the 80s, and everyone knew back then that it wasn't real. But who cares? But well, I guess that's my NWA. Or actually, I'll get into the NWA because I think that's actually been the better show out of all of them. And it's that old school feel, that the old school studio wrestling feel that I think I'm a fan of, and people obviously have been a fan of. And the thing is, they may not be the best wrestlers, but they build. And it is what Jim Cornette has actually been like. And of course, Jim Cornette hasn't been able to keep a job because of his comments. And that's one thing I want to touch on. And I didn't write this down on my notes, but it's come up. Those racist comments or supposedly racist comments that Jim Cornette made. Well, and I think he should have honestly just apologized on that. Like, that one, like, no, he's bullheaded and how he wants to be, but on that one, I think maybe he was in the wrong. And here's why. Well, Looney Tunes, people watch Looney Tunes, right? Well, when you think about it, Looney Tunes is probably the most racist, sexual cartoon series out there, but that was for the times. Nowadays, you watch a lot of that and thinking, hey, you wouldn't be able to get away with that now. No way. And there's a lot of Looney Tunes cartoons, of Disney cartoons, that are banned from actually being played in syndication. Because they either have images of Hitler, or references of Hitler, or something really racist. Like, there's a lot of blackface in a lot of those old cartoons. And you cannot do that anymore. And Jim Cornette, well, I respect Jim Cornette. I think he's been a bit in the wrong. He's really, really becoming that that heel for the current era. And I think it'd be great money for wrestling right now if he was in a wrestling company, if he was in AEW and feuding with the Bucks and Kenny and all this. But he won't do it. And people say, well, it's all for publicity of his podcast. I can't say that for sure. I don't think he does it for his podcast. I think it's actually real, what he says. Like, there's no bullshit about Jim Cornette. It's just he's a personality that's been used to being turned up real high. He's always been outspoken. He's going to tell you what he thinks. But anyway, I wanted to get on WWE tag teams, and it's interesting because this will pertain to the revival. They've been requesting their release. I guess they've been on TV, off TV for a little while, but they've been requesting their release for a better part of a year. And people are going off that, well, you signed the contract, you done this and that, which I understand. Why is it if Vince McMahon does not see tag teams as a draw, is he worried about the revival leaving? Or anybody leaving at this point? Anybody who's leaving, who's not currently being pushed, that wants to leave and want their release, why is it such an issue now if they're not big draws? If you don't see any money in them, then why don't you just turf them off? What, because you don't want another company to have them and make stars out of them? But then they don't draw. I don't know, something to think about. That just doesn't pertain to tag teams, but single guys as well. But like, I watch a lot of what AEW is doing with their tag teams, and it looks like they're really ramping up and making tag teams look like a main event attraction, which they should be. You go back in the days of the Road Warriors, the Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, and all these other things. And this is something I think Jim Cornette should really praise, is that they are focusing on tag teams being a main attraction. And for years, like, you'd hear about the Road Warriors saving territories, and the Rock and Roll Express and Midnight Express probably being the top feud in a territory, in a dying territory that would revive it. The Freebirds versus the Von Erichs was something that saved world class. So I don't see why Vince McMahon doesn't not see tag teams as the main event attraction, especially when they've had guys like the New Age Outlaws, and even the Mega Powers, but then they were destined to explode. Yeah, brother. But yeah, I don't know. WWE tag teams, like, if they're not draws, why are you worried about them leaving? That's all I'll say on that. Coming up after the break, I'll be talking about, well, my move to Melbourne.
The Sky Genie Show.
A new cereal that's spreading like a virus, Corona Flakes. Order your packet today at coronaflakes.com. This month is Total Fuckwit Awareness Month. This cause is to be aware and identify a total fuckwit when you see one. The Sky Genie Show is proudly sponsoring the Total Fuckwit Awareness Association. Go to totalfuckwit.org and sign up today.
The Sky Genie Show.
And we're back. I just gotta fix some things up. Gotta love this doing live stuff. Like, I put it back and started doing recording because I didn't have Mixer, and I don't know, I'd rather do it live. Trying to set up the next break because I couldn't do that. I forgot to do it. Anyway, we'll go to that. Oh my god. That will do. There. And where is it? Normally I'd have this set up, but because I want to do it, so I'm trying to do it a bit different. I tried using another program, but I'm not sure if that's working. So I'll set this up, and there. Next break is all set up. Anyway, I guess we'll talk a little bit what's been going on. So last time I did a show, it was around the time the bushfires happened, and I doubt anybody listened to that. But anyway, there was a lot that happened in that time, and well, obviously the bushfires were probably the most devastating things we ever had in that town, and it was surprising that the whole the two places that did not get hit was in Tari, where I was living, and in Foster, which is my hometown. Everything else around it all got lit up. Sadly, we lost a couple towns. One that's actually been rebuilt, and rebuilt by volunteers, but it's actually been pretty good. A few others have been damaged beyond repair. Like there's no chance of repairing it because there's like there was way too much damage out there to really repair it. There was like a public school out there, the one in Boban, which I'm talking about. That was over 200 years old, and surprisingly not heritage listed. But then that was burnt down too. They've managed to fix everything up and reopen that school, but 200 years old, which is uh, or over, which is probably around the time where we had the settlers. That was the first fleet, maybe second fleet, which is pretty historic when you think about it. So we had that. We also had a lot of drought in that area. Like there wasn't a lot of rain, and surprisingly, when I left, probably wasn't a week or so later, it was pouring down rain, and they had floods, really bad floods. It actually killed a lot of the fish because they had the ash from the fire and all that other stuff that was still in the air, and yet it was going into all the water and poisoning all the fish. And here's the problem with that is because of that. But now everything seems to be going fine. I'm hoping they're getting rain and more rain now. But there was that whole year I was there. Like there was an area where that ended up flooding, going over the bank. But if you go there normally, it's a huge drop. So the fact that place really went under is mind-boggling. And you said there's no such thing as climate change. You go to that town, and boy howdy is there climate change. That's for sure. But I ended up moving to Melbourne because I was living with the roommate and ended up getting kicked out. I won't go into that too much detail on that because hey, who cares? So yeah, I'm away from that person now. So I've been in Melbourne suburbs, in a Melbourne suburb called Werribee, which is it's a cool little, it's cool, not little, it's a cool place. Everything's all stretched out though. Like to the shops, it's about a half an hour walk. I went to a shopping centre, it's over an hour. So I've been doing a fair bit of walking around here. Obviously, you catch everything by train. And I'll talk into this story. So, because I'm volunteering around in, like, going around and looking at all the radio stations because I'm trying to get actual training. With Tubob, I was sort of getting training, but not a lot. I wouldn't say it was anything worth crying about, but I was getting trained there, and it was more the setup was more of a one-on-one setting. So I went to the one close up around here that's around Hoppers Crossing. It's a little bit, I don't know, I say it's a bit more, maybe northeast. And because I went there and I went to I sat in one of the shows, and one of the guys, they were saying that they've been on since the Ewoks. I'm like, oh well, since the 80s. He's like, no, in the 90s. Ewoks came out in the 90s. This dude was so short. Like, it wasn't the main guy, it was the co-host. And he's like, oh, I'm sure, but it was in the 90s. So I got my phone, looked it up, showed him 1982 Star Wars. That dude was so pissed off with me for the rest of the day. The whole rest of the time I was there, the main host was laughing his ass off because he got done. And like a few times, I think I stumped him a few times, and like as soon as the show was over, he upped and left. He's like, "Oh, you got he hates you." Like there was like three people, and they were just laughing at the fact he just up and left. Everyone else was all nice to me, but him. So I'm like, But then they give me the old, oh well, we'll tell you if you get into the class, because it was a class setting that they had the training, and I was like, that's not really the same as getting one-on-one training. So I looked around at other stations. I went to Melton, and Melton, and the dude there is probably the nicest dude you'd ever meet. Gives you the shirt off his back, like that kind of dude. He even offered me a lift to this train station, and easily someplace like I want to do. Another reason why I came to here is because I like to sort of explore. Definitely like to explore places, and well, Sydney. I've been to Sydney 100 times, and there's nothing good in Sydney that I haven't seen. Like it's, I don't know, like you. I don't know analogy you can compare it to, but like you've seen it, you've done it, you've done everything about Sydney you could. So I would come here, and everything's all new. Everything's been here for years, but it's all new. Yesterday, I went to a place called Go Figure Collectibles, and I posted some of this on the Soul Monster page, but also on my Facebook. It's all collectibles, like there's old toys, there's plush things, there's like all these old toys that I guess you wouldn't take out of the box. So you had all these wrestling figurines. There's actually wrestling DVDs too, but there was nothing there that was worth looking at. Like I wanted to be there when I was in its bigger prime, because I had like all the old. That's where I got all the old my wrestling collection. I had all the WrestleMania 1, WrestleMania 2, and all that other stuff. That's where I got that's where I got it from. They had this LJN of Jake the Snake Roberts, and it was worth $600 Australian. Crazy, huh? I'm thinking, wow. And I'm definitely going to go to this place again, but then, like, and that's the thing I like doing with Exploring Geek. You find out new things. Maybe people hate everybody new, but then I don't. I'm like, well, fuck it. I like to discover shit on my own. And hey, it's new to me. Fuck you if you don't like it, like the shiny new toy. But here's the thing with the LJN thing. It was in the original packaging. The box looked like it had been a bit worn, with tear and all that, like worn out and shit. But it was in the box, mint condition. I'm like, wow. And the thing is, you get that, you take it home, and someone rips it out of the box. That thing is not worth that much money anymore. So it was awesome to see how much that thing was worth. But yeah, like I hate downtime, really do. Like I usually have a lot of it, and a lot of times I'll want to just get the fuck out. Like there'll be days I just don't want to, and unless I have music with me, if I'm sitting at home all day, I get the shit really bad. And so I just never could sit there. So yesterday, like it wasn't even planned. It wasn't a weekend. Like I was going to go eventually, but it wasn't exactly a planned thing for me to do. So I just upped and went. Like I had money on your key card thing for the trains and shit. Went up and went just to go see it. And I figured, why not? Why not? Anyway, well that'll be it for this segment. We'll be back after the break.
The Sky Genie Show.
Choke me, Devil Daddy, choke me! I thought perhaps a gateway to the other side had finally crinkled and cracked, opening up a putrid passageway in the middle of Chain Street to Beelzebub's bungalow many, many miles down. Choke me, Devil Daddy, choke me! I don't know. As I stared into the darkened void, imagining the hordes of devils soon to spring forth, I couldn't help but ponder. Choke me, Devil Daddy, choke me! How deep does that hole go? Choke me, Devil Daddy, choke me! Choke me, Devil Daddy, choke me! Choke me, Devil Daddy, choke me! For on this hallowed day, sweet, sweet Mama Earth opened up her gaping and gaseous orifice to finally allow the darkened one to claw his way out of the shadow zone and into our luminescent heaviside lair. Like Kruger into the Thompson's tub, and my consciousness is Nancy's open thighs. Choke me, devil daddy, choke me. I don't know. Choke me, devil daddy, choke me. I can only hope my vexed savior ascends, and that my servitude to the one true maestro of mayhem can finally be proclaimed. Choke me, devil daddy, choke me. Choke me, devil daddy, choke me. Choke me, devil daddy, choke me. Through the holographic plane of existence that flickers and fades, like an Alf rerun watched at 3 o'clock in the morning whilst your sleeping stepdad slumbers and snores, I now see this world as evanescent as I lock eyes with the legion of the underworld, who will stand shoulder to shoulder with me and see me as more than Mark who works at Arby's, see me as the true soldier of Samhain that I really am, and together we will chant into the brightened fray, stepdads be damned and naysayers be gone, for I am the prince of Purgatoria. I am the infernal firstborn son of Lucifer. I am Gordon Shumway the rogue, last son of Melmac, and the luckies of this world didn't even stand a chance. I don't know. Choke me, devil daddy, choke me. Choke me, devil daddy, choke me. Choke me, devil daddy, choke me. Holes are pretty cool.
If you have something for stupid shit of the week, go to Twitter at The Sky Genie Show and tag me in it. Make sure it's good and make sure it's stupid.
The Sky Genie Show.
That ended quickly. So we're back with The Sky Genie Show. I guess we go with plans moving forward. Now, normally, when I'm thinking of normally what we used to do was about 7:30 on a Friday. I'm going to change that to it's going to be a 10 o'clock on Sunday my time. Now, how that works out, I for years I don't know. I think it's around 6 o'clock Eastern US time, but when daylight savings ends or here or starts for you, it'll be about 8 o'clock at night. So I think that's how it works out. Otherwise, it's going to be 10 o'clock every week. I'm going to unless it's like with takeovers and stuff like that, either I'll change the day or I'll just do it a lot early and just record it and just play it later. We have a new website. I don't have it written down at the moment, so I forget what it is. I'll post it in the chat a little bit later. And Twitter is still at SDD916. I think there's at the Sky Genie Show as well, but forget that. Like, I haven't done this for a while, so you have to bear with me. Thank you all for listening, and I'll catch you later.
The Sky Genie Show.